Hello, and welcome to this Paychex webinar, Fiduciary Responsibilities, the Ingredients for a Compliant Retirement Plan. First, a quick disclaimer. The content in this presentation is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as advice. So, who is this webinar for? Well, it's particularly relevant for employers who currently offer a retirement plan, such as a 401k plan known as plan sponsors, as well as any employer who is seriously thinking about sponsoring a plan in the future. Now, to be sure, a retirement plan offers ample rewards for both employers and employees, including tax benefits for participants and the business, a great benefit to attract and retain employees, and the opportunity to plan and prepare for the future. However, the rewards for the plan sponsor come with responsibilities and potential exposure to fiduciary risk. Okay, let's cover our agenda. This webinar will help you understand your fiduciary responsibilities and how to get help if you need it. Specifically, we'll cover what the term fiduciary responsibility actually means, what ERISA is and how it factors in, who the fiduciaries are and what their duties entail, why your liability must be taken seriously, and finally, how Paychex Retirement Services offers you third-party fiduciary services to help you manage some of your fiduciary responsibilities. Now, before we dive in, just a little about Paychex and how we can help. Paychex administers more than 1 in 10 401k plans in the U.S. based on Department of Labor Form 5500 data. We have teams of retirement and compliance professionals who are experts in all aspects of fiduciary responsibility. So we're well equipped to help you understand your role, navigate through the complexity and potential risks, and help you keep compliant. And now on to our first topic. We'll start with a pretty standard definition of a fiduciary. It's a person who owes a duty of good faith and trust to another and must act primarily for the benefit of the other in a particular activity. What does this mean in less formal terms? A fiduciary looks out for someone else, usually in regard to their assets. Essentially, there are two aspects to being a fiduciary, legal and ethical. It involves the highest legal duty of one party to another, and it also means being bound ethically to act in the other party's best interests. In other words, to always strive to do the right thing by them. Before moving on, here's a question we frequently hear from business owners. Do all tasks in a retirement plan entail fiduciary responsibility? So let's talk a bit about that. The answer is simple. Not all tasks. There are some basic business decisions that don't bear any fiduciary responsibility, and here are a few as an example. Establishing a plan, selecting features such as eligibility terms, auto-enroll, Roth contribution option, matching, and other plan design choices, and amending or terminating a plan. However, once you set up and begin to administer a plan, you immediately begin incurring fiduciary responsibility. This also pertains to choosing a provider, a financial advisor, and selecting investments. And all of this responsibility exists because of government legislation designed to protect employees. Which takes us to our next topic on ERISA. This legislation, called the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, or ERISA for short, was passed in 1974 to help protect the assets of all retirement plan participants. It's the foundation of the requirements that people handling assets and administering qualified retirement plans, known as ERISA fiduciaries, must follow. There are specific duties that ERISA outlines, which fiduciaries are required to follow by law. These include Loyalty. Fiduciaries are managing someone else's money and are bound to put that person or entity's interests ahead of their own. Prudence, arguably the most important of the duties. Fiduciaries are held to the strictest standards of care, skill, and diligence in all their dealings with the plan. Moreover, if any person cannot perform certain fiduciary responsibilities, the company must hire or source an entity who can perform those responsibilities with the required credentials and expertise. Diversification. In most cases, a well-diversified retirement account buffers risk against plan losses. So, it's critical that fiduciaries select investments that represent a broad spectrum of interests to give participants the opportunity for sufficient diversification in their portfolio. Documentation. Fiduciaries must ensure that plan documents comply with all requirements in the Internal Revenue Code, and the plan is carried out in a structured, operational fashion. Reasonable plan expenses. It's important that fiduciaries weigh the plan fees and expenses against services provided to determine that the plan sponsor has the best intentions for its participants. So, who are ERISA fiduciaries? Here are the primary fiduciary roles and their associated responsibilities. Under ERISA Section 402, every plan must have at least one named fiduciary. You can think of this individual as the primary go-to person with regard to a plan's operation and administration. The named fiduciary is normally the final decision maker, usually an owner, unless someone else is named. This person is tasked with choosing and monitoring other plan fiduciaries and service providers. Note, in most cases, the named fiduciary is the plan sponsor, but it can be a committee assigned to carry out the duties. From there, fiduciaries are involved in various aspects of a retirement plan: the money, or the assets, the investments, and the administrative details of the official documents, filings, and notices. When it comes to the assets, under ERISA Section 403, unless certain restrictions apply, assets in the plan must be held in a trust, which is what makes the role of a trustee obligatory. A trustee can be an individual or a group of people who are tasked with managing the assets in the trust and providing oversight for processing contributions, investment transactions, but not the investment choices themselves, financial statements, fees, and expenses. Trustees are considered the decision makers for all matters of the trust and make those decisions based on the provisions outlined in the trust agreement. There are two levels of fiduciaries for investments. Full investment management, also known as a 338 fiduciary, the number is based on the part of the IRS code, and investment advice or guidance, known as a 321 fiduciary. The 338 investment manager does exactly what their title implies: manage the investments. They have full discretion and responsibility over all aspects of the investments, including the ability to monitor, choose, change, and remove investments within the plan. Imagine the 338 investment manager as a personal chef. They make the meal for you with ingredients of their choosing that best fit your tastes. Then they take full responsibility for the outcome of the meal. The 321 investment advisor recommends a list of investments from which the plan sponsor or business owner can choose. They do so without having the power to implement the recommendations. They will also monitor plan investments and suggest modifications as needed. But remember, it's the appropriate fiduciary's responsibility to act on those recommendations, typically the named fiduciary or business owner. In our kitchen example, the 321 is like a nutritionist, offering a menu of foods that you can choose from and that will fit your dietary needs and tastes. The final key fiduciary role handles plan administration, also known as the 316 fiduciary. The plan administrator handles various day-to-day tasks and documents, including filings and notices. They monitor plan operations, distribute annual notices to participants, and file forms with the IRS and DOL, such as Form 5500. Just as a reminder, the 316 Plan Administrator role is not to be confused with a third-party administrator, or TPA, which is the provider that operates the plan, creates the plan documents, runs the compliance testing, and in some cases, prepares the forms for filing. The 316 Plan Administrator must actually do the filing themselves, as well as share notices and documents with participants as required. In our analogy, the 316 fiduciary is like a kitchen manager, ensuring that things are set up properly and things are running smoothly. As you might imagine, these various aspects of fiduciary responsibility can be difficult for plan sponsors and put them at risk from a liability standpoint. What if you or your team doesn't have experience with investment portfolio composition or diversification and makes imprudent selections? Or you forget to process participant contributions, or you don't do it on a timely basis. Or an administrator accidentally accepts a loan request when they're not allowed by the plan. To be sure, mistakes do happen, but here's the problem. Fiduciaries who lack prudence in any aspect of the plan can be held personally liable for any losses incurred by plan participants. That's why you cannot ignore this. Unfortunately, you can't hide behind a lack of experience or expertise. But the good news is, even though ERISA outlines rigorous standards, you don't have to know how to do everything yourself. Depending on the level of service and expertise you need, Paychex can show you how to share some of your fiduciary responsibility so that we help minimize your workload and reduce your risk. And finally, let's talk about some ways that Paychex can help. Whatever level of support you need, Paychex offers multiple fiduciary solutions in partnership with third-party experts. Whether it's third-party trustee services, investment management or advice solutions, or day-to-day administrative support. We offer the flexibility and choices to help you meet your fiduciary needs and keep you compliant and confident. As the largest 401k record keeper in the U.S., we understand your concerns. Well, we hope today's presentation has helped clarify your fiduciary responsibilities and showed you how you can share some of these duties with industry-leading fiduciary experts who stand ready to help you. If you've enjoyed this Paychex webinar, we invite you to check out other helpful resources at Paychex Works. Visit paychex.com/WORX.